Welcome to Screen Hollywood, the home of movie news and entertainment. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
He's not trying to make you jump every 5 minutes. He's trying to make you uncomfortable. He builds tension slowly. He plants questions inside your head. He builds puzzles, multiple timelines, hidden details. But because they respect the intelligence of the viewer, they trust you to put the pieces together. The lighting feels cold. The camera rarely feels comfortable. Every corridor feels dangerous. Every shadow feels alive. Defying martial arts, just one man trying to survive. Resident Evil actually feels scary again. For over 25 years, Hollywood has been trying to crack one of gaming's greatest horror franchises. And somehow, it never quite got there. Don't get me wrong, the Resident Evil films starring Milla Jovovich made money. They built a loyal fan base, and Milla herself became synonymous with the franchise. She looked the part, she kicked ass, she carried those films with real charisma. But if we're being brutally honest, those movies never truly captured what made Resident Evil, Resident Evil. They captured the zombies, they captured Umbrella, they captured the action, but they never captured the fear. Resident Evil was never just about shooting monsters. It was about dread, isolation. And I'll see you in the next one. Not knowing what was around the next corner. The games constantly made you feel vulnerable. The films rarely did. Instead, they gradually became enormous action spectacles. Milla Jovovich performing impossible stunts, explosions, slow motion, machine guns. By the end, it almost felt less like surviving a nightmare and more like watching somebody complete a video game with unlimited ammunition. They were entertaining, but terrifying? Not really. And after 25 years, I'd almost accepted that maybe Hollywood simply didn't understand Resident Evil. Then, Sony announced one name, Zach Cregger. And the moment I heard that, I was in. I genuinely believe Zach Cregger is becoming one of the most exciting filmmakers working today. In fact, I'll go one step further. I think he's challenging for the horror crown in Hollywood. That might sound like a huge statement, but look at what he's achieved in such a short space of time. First, Barbarian, a film that completely blindsided audiences. If you've never seen Barbarian, do yourself a favor. Don't read anything, don't watch spoilers, just watch it. Because one of the reasons that film works so brilliantly is because you never know where it's going. Every 20 minutes, it becomes a completely different movie. Then came Weapons, another massive success. Again, critics praised it, audiences praised it, and once again, Cregger proved something I've been thinking for a while now. This guy isn't interested in making disposable horror movies. He's interested in making films people are still discussing weeks later. That's becoming increasingly rare. Horror has changed, and so have audiences. There was a time when horror relied almost entirely on jump scares, loud noises, doors slamming, something suddenly appearing behind somebody. It worked, for a while. But audiences have become smarter. We've seen it all before. Modern horror has evolved. Today's best horror directors understand something incredibly important. Fear isn't created by monsters. It's created by uncertainty, the unknown. And that's where I think Zach Cregger separates himself from so many other filmmakers. He's not trying to make you jump every 5 minutes. He's trying to make you uncomfortable. He builds tension slowly. He plants questions inside your head. He lets scenes breathe. Sometimes, the most frightening moment isn't what happens. It's what you think might happen. That takes confidence. It takes patience. And above all, it takes great writing. One thing I've noticed about Cregger's work is that he doesn't just tell horror stories. He builds puzzles, multiple timelines, hidden details, characters that reveal themselves layer by layer. Watching one of his films feels less like consuming entertainment and more like solving a mystery. Honestly, it's the kind of layered storytelling that reminds me of filmmakers like Christopher Nolan or even Quentin Tarantino in the way information is revealed to the audience. Not because their movies are identical, but because they respect the intelligence of the viewer. They trust you to put the pieces together. That's exactly why I think Sony made an inspired decision hiring him. When news first broke that Zach Cregger wouldn't simply be recreating one of the games scene for scene, some Resident Evil fans weren't exactly thrilled. I've seen plenty of comments saying, just adapt Resident Evil 1, follow Resident Evil 2, stick to the games. And I completely understand why people feel that way. The games are iconic, some of the greatest survival horror experiences ever created. But personally, I think Sony has made the right decision. Because here's the problem with adapting something people already know. Everyone already knows it. Every surprise, every death, every twist, every reveal. Imagine watching The Sixth Sense, already knowing the ending. Imagine watching Seven, already knowing what's inside the box. Half the magic disappears. Resident Evil has always been built around uncertainty. Walking into rooms you didn't want to enter. Opening doors you knew you shouldn't open. Wondering whether you had enough ammunition to survive the next encounter. Those emotions don't come from following a checklist. They come from not knowing what's waiting for you. Giving Zach Cregger creative freedom means one very important thing. Nobody knows what's coming, not even lifelong Resident Evil fans. And honestly, that excites me far more than watching a live-action recreation of scenes I've already played dozens of times. The first thing that hit me wasn't the zombies. It wasn't the infected. It wasn't the creatures. It was the atmosphere. Within seconds, the trailer tells you exactly what kind of movie this wants to be. This isn't trying to become the next blockbuster action movie. This is trying to become a horror movie first. And that's exactly what Resident Evil has been missing. The lighting feels cold. The camera rarely feels comfortable. Every corridor feels dangerous. Every shadow feels alive. You immediately get the sense that something is watching, even when nothing is there. That's difficult to achieve. It's easy to create monsters. It's much harder to create anxiety. And from the very first trailer, that's exactly what Zach Cregger seems interested in doing. Creating anxiety. Not spectacle, not explosions, not superhero action. Pure, uncomfortable, psychological tension. And for the very first time in decades, Resident Evil actually feels scary again. One thing immediately stood out to me after watching the trailer. This isn't another story about an elite military squad armed to the teeth. It isn't a team of heavily trained operatives storming Raccoon City with enough firepower to flatten an army. Instead, we're following what appears to be an ordinary courier. And I absolutely love that decision. Because horror works best when the audience feels vulnerable alongside the main character. Think about some of the greatest horror films ever made. The protagonists usually aren't superheroes. They're ordinary people trapped in extraordinary situations. That's where the fear comes from. You're constantly asking yourself, what would I do? The moment your main character becomes unstoppable, the tension disappears. But this courier? He looks completely out of his depth. Lost, confused, terrified. Every step he takes feels like it could be his last. That instantly raises the stakes. Because unlike previous Resident Evil films, there doesn't appear to be a cavalry waiting around the corner. No backup, no army, no Alice performing gravity-defying martial arts, just one man trying to survive. And honestly, that's infinitely more terrifying. One of the biggest compliments I can give this trailer is that it actually reminds me of playing Resident Evil, not watching a Resident Evil movie. There's a huge difference. The games have always excelled at making the player hesitate. You've got 3 bullets left. Your health is flashing red. You hear something down the corridor. Do you open the door, or do you turn back? That constant feeling of uncertainty is what made Resident Evil legendary. The films often replace that uncertainty with spectacle. Instead of asking, can our hero survive this? The question action. But Resident Evil was never built on action. It was built on suspense. Watching this trailer, I got that feeling back. Every corridor looks oppressive. Every room feels like it's hiding something. The camera lingers just long enough to make you uncomfortable. Sometimes the scariest thing isn't what the trailer shows you. It's what it deliberately refuses to show. That's confidence. A filmmaker secure enough to understand that imagination is often scarier than CGI. Something else I noticed, Raccoon City doesn't just look like a backdrop. It feels alive, or maybe dead, depending on how you want to look at it. The city itself appears oppressive. Abandoned streets, dim lighting, buildings that feel as though they've been rotting for years. There's a loneliness to everything, almost as if the city is swallowing people whole. That's exactly how Raccoon City should feel. In the games, the city wasn't simply where the story happened. It became part of the horror. Every police station corridor, every alleyway, every abandoned building, they all told a story. The environment itself was trying to intimidate you. Judging by this trailer, Zach Cregger understands that. He's not simply filming locations, he's creating atmosphere. That's a massive difference. One of the things I admire most about Zach Cregger's filmmaking is that he never seems obsessed with the monster. That might sound strange for a horror director, but think about it. The monster only matters if you care about the people running from it. Barbarian wasn't memorable because of its creature. It was memorable because you became emotionally invested before everything descended into chaos. That's great storytelling. And I think we're already seeing signs of that here. This courier doesn't look like an action hero. He looks like someone making increasingly desperate decisions. His fear feels believable. His confusion feels genuine. His isolation feels real. That's exactly what you want. Because if the audience emotionally connects with him, every encounter suddenly becomes terrifying. You're no longer watching someone survive, you're hoping they survive. That's a huge distinction. I've seen some fans say, "This doesn't follow Resident Evil 2," or "Where are Leon and Claire?" Others have questioned why Cregger is telling what appears to be a largely original story rather than recreating one of the classic games beat for beat. And honestly, I think that's one of the film's greatest strengths. If this trailer had simply recreated every famous scene from Resident Evil 2, we'd already know what was coming. Every reveal, every monster, every death. Where's the suspense in that? Instead, we're all walking into this together. Longtime fans, newcomers, everyone. Nobody knows exactly what's waiting around the next corner. Ironically, that's probably the closest a movie can get to recreating the feeling of playing Resident Evil for the first time. The games were never exciting because you knew what was coming. They were exciting because you didn't. That's exactly the emotion I think Cregger is trying to recreate. Not the story, the feeling. And personally, I think that's a much smarter objective. It's funny, really. Studios often spend years trying to reinvent franchises. Bigger budgets, bigger action, bigger visual effects. But sometimes, the smartest decision isn't spending more money, it's hiring the right storyteller. That's exactly what Sony appears to have done here. Rather than finding somebody who simply understands Resident Evil lore, they found someone who understands fear. Those aren't necessarily the same thing. Zach Cregger knows how to manipulate an audience. He knows how to build suspense. He knows when to answer questions, and more importantly, when not to. Those qualities matter far more than whether every hallway perfectly matches a video game map. Because cinema and gaming are different mediums. The objective shouldn't be to copy, it should be to translate the emotion. And judging by this trailer, that's exactly what's happening. I've been following this project since it was first announced. The moment Zach Cregger's name became attached, I was excited. Now that we've finally seen the trailer, I'm even more convinced. Not because it promises bigger monsters, or more explosions, or endless fan service, but because it promises something we've been missing from Resident Evil movies for decades. Fear. Real fear. Tension. Atmosphere. Isolation. Characters that feel human. A city that feels haunted. A story that isn't afraid to surprise us. That's Resident Evil. At least, that's the Resident Evil I remember playing. Will this become the greatest video game adaptation ever made? We simply don't know. Trailers can be misleading. Great trailers don't always become great movies. But one thing I do know, for the first time in a very long time, Resident Evil doesn't just look entertaining, it looks genuinely compelling. And if Zach Cregger delivers the kind of layered, intelligent horror we've seen in Barbarian and Weapons, I honestly believe we could be looking at the film that finally breaks the curse of Resident Evil on the big screen. After 25 years, maybe Hollywood has finally found the right director. So what do you think? Has Zach Cregger's trailer convinced you that this could be the best Resident Evil movie yet? Or would you have preferred a faithful adaptation of one of the games? Do you like the idea of an original story set in the world of Resident Evil? Or do you think Sony should have stuck closer to the source material? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I genuinely love to hear what you think. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe to Screen Hollywood, and turn on notifications for more original movie reviews, trailer breakdowns, entertainment news, and opinion-led analysis that goes beyond the headlines. And bookmark and subscribe to our international news site at screenhollywood.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.